episodes. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horror-thon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life here with 13 days of Halloween. As we come to a close, we are bringing you a lengthy horror review covering one of Halloween's most famous Halloween-specific horrors, but not one that is that beloved or well remembered. It is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the 1982 science fiction horror film, the third installment of the Halloween film series, of course, hence the 3. It is the first film to be written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, the creators of Halloween, returned as producers in this movie. Now, obviously, this is very well known that Halloween 3 is the only entry in the series that does not feature the serious antagonist Michael Myers. This was the plan, basically. John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, they basically wanted Halloween to be a concurrent series of films, an anthology, so to speak, where they centered the theme and the story around Halloween night, with each sequel containing its own characters, settings, and storyline. That would have been great. It would have been a great idea, I think. It would be really interesting to see where that goes, but alas, it was not to be. There's strong rumours that Halloween 4, the original plan for next Halloween, was going to be a more ghostly orientated thing. But the box office performance of Halloween 3 saw Halloween 4 bring Michael Myers back. Called Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers in 1988.
It's quite a big gap then.
Yeah, because ultimately it was like, you know, I guess whether there was any desire, really. It's funny because, like, you look back at it and go, well, of course you bought Michael Myers. But bear in mind that Michael Myers had only been in 2 movies up to that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an icon at this stage, I'd say. But apparently people really, really liked him as a villain. So there you go. Disappointing to see that in the end, particularly if you know the series as a whole. 4, 5, and 6 are mixed bags at best. And what we'd obviously get further along the line with H20, 20 years later, Resurrection, Rob Zombie's attempts, and where we are now with Halloween 2018. And the upcoming Halloween Kills, is it called? I think it's called Halloween Kills, which I hate as a title. I really hate that. It's so stupid. Anyway, back to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It treats the prior films in the franchise, so Halloween 1 and 2, as fictional movies. In fact, twice throughout, you will see Halloween on TV, the original Halloween. It also departs from the slasher genre. It's not a slasher film, which obviously that is Halloween full stop. This is the only one it isn't. It sort of centers around witchcraft more than anything else, with science fiction aspects as well, hence the Season of the Witch title.
I feel that's quite I don't know, I wouldn't automatically... If I heard a film called Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, I'd be like, oh, cool, we're going for a witch story.
Yep.
A full out and out, like, witch.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, up to a certain point, there's nothing really mentioned about witchcraft at all. And then it's kind of said in a throwaway line.
Just to link it to that.
I guess, kind of. I don't know if they really cared that much. I think this sort of Season of the Witch, witchcraft, Halloween, like that was what they were looking for more than anything else, rather than into the story.
Yeah, I would have linked more to the mask element of it.
Season of the Mask. That's awful. That's a terrible title. You should be ashamed.
I didn't say Season of the Mask.
It was on a budget of 2.5 million, but but did actually make a profit, grossing 14.4 million at the box office in the US. However, it's the poorest performing film in the Halloween series at that time. It stars Tom Atkins as Dr. Daniel Chalice, Stacey Nilkin as Ellie Grimbridge, and Dan O'Harley as Connell Cochrane. They are 3 major players. There are many other characters. We will get to them, but they are the 3 important ones, particularly Tom Atkins and Dan O'Harley. I'm not even know if I'm saying that correctly, but that's how I read it. So the movie opens on Saturday, the 23rd of October, as we see a man, an unknown man, don't have a clue who this is. We will find out a bit more about him later on. And he's called Harry, which is something we find out later when his daughter is introduced.
Yeah.
This man is played by Al Berry, and he is running down the street in the middle of the night and being chased slowly by some car, some dark car. He ends up running into a junkyard and hiding in there, and you kind of see this car slowly creeping along. Clearly, they're looking for him.
Yeah.
But they're so slow, man. Like, he could have totally fucking outrun them.
Yeah, it's kind of like they must be a big threat for him to be running like that, though.
I agree. He is an elderly man as well, so maybe he hasn't got the stamina. I'll give him a break on that front. Cool. We first get a first sort of introduction to this very synthy soundtrack that Halloween 3 has. Synth is nothing new for Halloween. John Carpenter, Deborah Hill and all that. It's not new. However, whereas like the original Halloween's focused mainly on that Halloween theme, there isn't really one specific to Halloween 3 aside from the ad.
Yeah.
But the actual soundtrack, there's no like one particular piece where you're like, oh, that is Halloween 3.
No.
But if you heard it, that's so synthy, I think you'd recognise a lot of it and be like, oh, that sounds like it's from Halloween 3.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. It's very eerie, very tense music. So this fella, he's gone into the junkyard. He thinks he's escaped when he goes to turn around and one of the occupants of the car, I guess, or another man appears behind him. It's one of many jump scares this movie has. It does love a large shriek of synth.
Yeah.
And then there's something's there.
On, yeah.
They love that. This fella he's wearing a suit, gloves, very smart looking, very professional looking, but noticeably he's expressionless. Like there's no grimace, there's no smile, there's no gotcha, there's no come here, no words are spoken. He ends up grabbing Harry and begins to strangle him on the floor. So clearly this suited man is also very, very strong. Harry kind of like desperately trying to reach out to grab anything, ends up reaching out and grabbing a rope that is attached to 2 blocks that are holding a car in place. I did wonder, I was like, why is the handbrake not on? But then I was kind of like, it's a junkyard, maybe the handbrake's broken.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the kind of thing. So he manages to pull the blocks free, so like releasing the wheels, and the car rolls down, and it ends up crushing the attacker between another car. It's a weird death, so to speak.
It's very slow.
Yeah, it's very slow, but also like the sort of like he just sort of sits up the man like that, and then sort of slumps forward. It's weird, but later on makes more sense. Makes more sense later on than anything else because there's no sound, there's no reaction.
Yeah.
He just sort of seems to slump over. You don't even know if he's died, you know? So Harry then gets back up and runs off into the junkyard to escape the car. It should be noted at this point, the film's been coy to not highlight it until this point, which is he has something in his pocket. And he's dropped at this point, he picks it back up, and it kind of looks like a bright orange cloth, a bit of something, you know?
Like a rag, yeah.
Yeah, a rag or something. It's not clear what it is at this stage. We then go to a gas station where the proprietor, Walter, played by Essex Smith, he's watching a news report, a convenient news report, on part of Stonehenge in UK, having been stolen. Now, on a second watch, to write these notes, the next watch round, I know I caught something in this news report that I didn't catch before.
Oh, really?
That this is a news report about the robbery of one of Stonehenge's rocks 9 months prior. It actually happened 9 months ago.
Oh, okay.
And they're talking about how there's still no clue, still no idea, or anything like that.
Okay.
Which actually makes a fuck ton more sense again in relation to it go missing and stuff like that. The TV then switches to the first of many times you're going to see the silver Shamrock ad, where 3 very special masks are on sale. One's a skull mask, one's a pumpkin mask, one is a witch's face. This song, woo!
It's ridiculous. It's in your head.
Will get in your head. 2 more days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Interesting fact, it uses the London Bridge is falling down theme. Do you know why?
Because it was free.
Because it was in the public domain. It cost them nothing to use it. No copyright issues and whatever. But it will get stuck in your head. That dum 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 dum. You'll hear it a ton through this film, and it's surprisingly not irritating because it's used when it needs to be used.
And it's clever because obviously overall it fits with the story.
Yeah, because it's a countdown.
Yeah.
It's a countdown.
No, like the whole idea that it gets stuck in your head.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Harry then arrives. Well, Walter hears a few noises. He goes looking, and Harry then arrives and surprises Walter. It's another jump scare, you know, that arm on the shoulder. He grabs Walter, collapses. Before he goes unconscious, he says, "They're coming. They're coming." He says it twice and pulls the thing out of his hand, which is a pumpkin mask. You kind of see it a bit more clearly as he's gripping the front of it, and you know, you put the links together. Oh, that's the mask from the ad.
Yeah.
There you go. So we're onto something. Walter puts Harry in his truck and drives away, presumably to a hospital. And we see that one of the suited men from earlier is watching the truck pull away.
Yeah.
We then cut to be introduced to Dr. Daniel Chalice, played by the wonderful Tom Atkins, who puts in a shift in this film. Tom Atkins is doing his very best to make what sometimes is a nonsensical story very
makes sense.
interesting.
Yeah.
Also, he plays it with a ton of passion, and I personally love his character.
Yeah.
The deadbeat dad / playboy / hero.
Yeah.
Bang into it,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
He's arrived at his ex-wife's house to give his 2 young children a present. He's been to a dime store, gas station, and picked up 2 of the shittiest looking masks possible. The kids don't even bother to hide their disappointment by that. And they actually showed Dan that their mother already bought the masks, silver Shamrock masks. And they sort of sing the song, which is weird, and then sit down to watch the ad again as we get to hear it. Dan and Linda, who is his ex-wife, played by Nancy Keys, they bicker a bit, get used to their bickering, about his drinking and doctoring. Dan Chalice is a doctor who likes a booze. It's a really, really throwaway line, because he's then called in to the hospital, and it is a bit like, wait, so is he drunk? Has he been drinking on call?
Yeah.
This is not a great way to introduce to a guy.
I was actually so cold to him at first. I thought she was a babysitter at first. I was like, oh, she's looking after the kids. She's a bit annoyed that he's come home late because she's got to obviously go home now. It's like, oh no, they used to be married. Okay, yeah, so that makes more sense.
Well, she's portrayed as a bit of a nagging harpy, and that is throughout the movie. Even though there's some sort of fairness on her part at certain points in regards to what Dan Chalice, Dr. Dan, does.
I think because they have to build up this level of this relationship quite quickly. So they have her being quite. So obviously, if you've seen it over the months, it might be that he's literally just always letting them down.
Yep.
So she's straight in with it like, oh, what is this shit? Like, it's always happening.
Yep.
So yeah, I think they did quite a job to build it up quite quickly, because that's the kind of situation you have to build up over time to make it.
But also, they're not at loggerheads. They're not hating each other. Like she's nagging him, but it's more just like.
Okay, again.
And he's like, oh, come on, man, give us a smooch, you know, that kind of thing. It's that kind of relationship, you know. So we cut to the hospital. Dan has arrived, and it's Harry that he's come to check out. There's Dan has this weird odd back and forth with Walter. Walter sort of introduces himself and sort of says like, hey, you know, I was always brought up to, you know, help people who are in trouble. As long as there's no trouble for me, there's not going to be any trouble for me. It's a little bit odd. And I think only really there for Walter to be brought back in at the end of the film, so you can be like, oh, it's him, it's the same guy, and so on. Harry does briefly wake up, though, when he hears the Silver Shamrock ad playing on a TV in a hospital room. He sputters out that they're going to kill us, all of us, which prompts Walter to then get the hell out of Dodge there. I guess this is the trouble he was thinking of. He's like, shit, this is trouble, I'm out of here.
Yep, sensible.
Yeah. Outside, we see the suited man that's been effectively following him arriving at the hospital. Harry's now sedated in bed, so Dan needs a nap. You know, he's been drinking, he's been doctoring.
He's doctoring.
Now he needs to have some sleep. In the doctor's lounge. This is where we kind of get an introduction to the sort of playboy aspect of Dan that I quite enjoy. As he's walking with the nurses and a kind of flirtatious talk. He pats her on the bottom and she pats him back on the bottom, like slapping each other's asses, that kind of thing. It's cute.
It's the kind of thing that'd be in a video, one of them kind of educational videos nowadays.
No, because of how she reacts about it. If it was just a pat, yeah, go on, love, and then she was like, oh, you.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't. She's like, hey, you, and slaps him back. Like, that to me is just banter between friends.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know?
But yeah, if they have
massive 80s bants. I realise, obviously, he shouldn't be patting. Obviously.
Yeah.
Let's state the obvious here. Let's not go down the route of being super, super woke in this video. It's an 82 movie. It's played for a laugh and a show. I think the playful side of Dan's behaviour. Kind of thing more than anything else. The suited man is now inside, though. And he goes to the room where Harry is. While cut in between, we're getting Dan getting himself ready for sleep in the doctor's lounge. In the patient's room, in Harry's room, we get one of the most famous scenes from the movie, and one that is often cut, unfortunately. Now, our watch of this, your first time watching, unfortunately, somehow ended up watching a fucking cut version, which cut down 2 major scenes.
Yeah.
Rewatching it for the notes, I watched the uncut version, which includes what you didn't see. It's very irritating that they even exist, because while these 2 particular scenes are brutal, I think they're par for the course more than anything else.
Fits with the Halloween thing, the Halloween type
It's a horror
as well.
movie.
Yeah, because Halloween has some quite brutal scenes, so why cut? Yeah.
So what it basically is, this death is the suited man pushes 2 of his fingers into Harry's skull. And then in quite a graphic scene, he basically pulls his fingers up and rips his skull upwards. And what you see, what you didn't see, is the skull kind of like breaking apart behind the flesh.
Yeah.
Like it's quite nasty. It does look very real. And you hear a crunch and a crack.
Yeah.
But that's what's basically cut. All hell obviously breaks loose as a nurse sees this. Dan wakes up and comes running out and then chases after the man with the suit, who gets into a car, promptly pours petrol over himself and lights it on fire, causing it to explode. Big explosion. It's a cool scene.
Yeah.
It's a very cool
It's very
scene.
dark as well, isn't it?
Well, it's so unexpected. If you never, you know, if you're not seen it, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, wow. And you start thinking cult, possessed,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Because, like, to just go in the car, petrol, because he does it all expressionless as well, this man, you know, petrol over, and then poof, you know? It's very, very good. Dan, in the doctor's lounge, calls his ex-wife to say he now can't pick up the kids. To be fair, this is fine. He even tries to explain to her, look, 2 people have died here. And you don't hear what she's saying. You can hear her shouting at him.
Yeah.
But I get the impression she thinks he's to blame for those deaths because he's drinking. Because he says, no, it's nothing to do with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's...
She will not listen to what I'm
No,
saying. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think him calling up saying, look, I can't pick up the kids. 2 people have died here tonight and police are here and all that.
Yeah.
I think so. Fair enough. You know what?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Sort that shit out and we'll speak later. Because she won't even listen to him. He ends up promising to pick him up on Saturday, Halloween, and they can stay with him all night long. Take a guess. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
We then see one of the policemen put down the mask the man was carrying, and this is where we first kind of really see the silver shamrock symbol that is attached to this mask. They call it a trademark symbol, but basically it's a large button that is, I guess, sewn
Onto the back.
onto the back of the mask. I don't really get this idea. Now, considering the plan that will be revealed later on, why would you not just sew the chip into the mask? Why would you even have this button? Because that thing is, it's loose. Like, it's big, it's weighty, and it comes off as we see later on.
Yeah.
Like, you're asking for trouble there. Personally, if I bought a mask like this, I'd be trying to take that thing off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit
You
of an
know?
odd one.
Why would you not just sew it into the mask?
But then there's parts where they show, like, it like illuminated later. So...
But if it was in the mask, even the symbol, like the part of the symbol, could be sewn into the mask.
Yeah.
That's it, you know? But that's just an observation on my end. So that's when we first kind of see that important symbol. It's now Sunday the 24th. The police and Dan are in the room with the body of Harry. It's the morning as Ellie Grimbridge arrives, played by Stacey Nelkin. She's Harry's daughter. She identifies the body, and the best explanation that the police can give her as to what happened is that it was a drugged up dude. You know, to say, look, we're looking into it. There's not really much we can do at this point, you know,
Yeah.
but we'll be in touch.
Fair point, yeah.
She leaves. Dan leaves shortly afterwards, and he sees her kind of crying in the hallway after. They share a sort of look, but there's nothing here as we cut to Wednesday the 27th. So we're speeding up fairly quickly, and we're now at the coroner's office. Playboy Dan again,
Yep.
as he's super charming to Teddy, played by Wendy Westberg. He wants her to basically look into the remains. She's an assistant, so obviously not the lead in this case. But he wants her to kind of go behind her boss's back and look into the remains for him personally, to tell him what she finds, to do with the man who set himself on fire.
Yeah.
She makes no promises, but she agrees to kind of do it on the basis that they're going to go out for dinner at the point in the future. You know, like they have rapport.
Yeah.
They clearly, if they've never had a relationship before, they've had flirtatious times.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that much is
That
clear.
makes sense, yeah.
Playboy Dan, innit? We're now at Friday the 29th, as Dan is in a dive bar having a drink. I don't know if they're trying to imply he's an alky, but it's kind of dropped after this point. Don't you think?
We grab some beer later when he goes.
Yeah, I suppose.
But that's about it. There's no kind of desperation to drink. I mean, obviously it's quite a short time scale. I don't think he's got time to drink.
Yeah, it's. I think maybe it's just there as a sort of plot point for the kids more than anything else.
Maybe, yeah, and just during the day drinking, his role as well. Would you be drinking during a day like that? So just little nods of his drinking's a bit more of a problem than for most people.
Fair enough. This is where you get your Michael Myers cameo. Famous quiz question. Halloween 3 is the one that Michael Myers doesn't appear in. Wrong. Michael Myers does appear as he makes a cameo on TV as an advert for Halloween. So basically, we get a reveal that Halloween itself, the movie, is going to be shown. And then at 9 p.m. after the big movie, Silver Shamrock will be doing a big giveaway on TV. So Halloween night at 9 p.m, you're going to want to be watching to see what this giveaway is. It's odd because it's I don't know 80s TV in America, but did the watershed that we have in this country exist? Because Halloween before 9 p.m.
is a bit much.
That movie is going to be cut to ribbons.
Yeah.
It's going to be wait, is this a horror movie or just some guy watching someone from afar? The Silver Shamrock ad comes on again, of course. And then Ellie arrives at the bar and she's come looking for Dan. He was at the funeral. She thanks him. He, says sorry about your father. And she says, look, did my dad say anything to you before he died? Kind of thing. Dan lies. He sort of says, yeah, look, he says, tell my daughter I loved her. She calls him out straight away. You're a bad liar, but thanks anyway. As she goes to walk off, Dan kind of reveals what he actually said. Not so much what he said, but more what Dan thinks. He said, he says very passionately, look, something odd happened that night. I want to get to the bottom of it. This doesn't happen. And they're going to team up from this point. So they end up going to visit her father's old toy store. And it's there they find out he made a trip through his logs of what he does, his diary. He made a trip to Silver Shamrock's base HQ, basically, their factory, in a place called Santa Mira. So the pair agree to go look into Silver Shamrock, as there seems to be some sort of link there.
Yeah.
Something happened when he went to go collect his order. He got the masks, but what happened in between? That is the big question. This is where Dan's proper deadbeatness comes out, as he calls his nagging ex-wife, to say he no longer can pick up the kids.
Yeah.
Or that he'll be back he says he'll be back in time, he'll be back later, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he can't tell her where he's going. He does this from a public payphone.
And he's got a six-pack ready to jump in a car with
this woman he's just met. Yeah, absolutely. 2 more days to Halloween. Halloween. 2 more days to Halloween. Silver Shamrock. We get a bit of a road trip with Dan and Ellie as they make their way to Santa Mira, where we hear kind of a bit of a history as they're talking back and forth in the car about Silver Shamrock's origins and its Irish background, including that it's owned by a man called Conal Cochrane. I fucking love his name. Conal Cochrane. Yeah. Doesn't that sound so tasty in the mouth? Really does. I love it. I also love the drive towards Santa Mira, a very Children of the Corn, as we go into very deep countryside of America, into a very small town. As they drive through it, and you see a lot of locals kind of stopping and staring, out windows and stuff like that, including that this town has CCTV, which is watching them arrive as well. It's clearly not exactly the friendliest of places.
Town.
Basically. It's a very small town as well, it should be noted. It's not like it's got a fucking population of 5,000 or something like that. It's probably a couple hundred at most. Arriving at the factory, they realise we don't have a plan.
Yeah.
It's we've got here, now what are we going to do? Okay, well, let's head back to the motel we passed outside town and pose as a couple to kind of hide any suspicions as to why we're here. As Ellie distracts the owner, he's showing her around the room and stuff like that. Dan goes to sign in, but also to check out the check-in register, where he finds Harry's name, that Harry had stayed at this motel as well. So we got another link. While Ellie's outside talking to the proprietor of the motel, we see Mr. Conal Cochrane in his car, apparently driving past, as the owner talks about how great the man is. He's clearly quite revered in this town. Although we've not actually seen him yet at this stage. The cars are tinted windows, you don't see anything, it's just driving past. But this motel is also where we meet an array of characters arriving at the same time. We have Ralph Straight as Buddy Kupfer, Jadine Barber as Betty Kupfer, and Brad Shatier as Buddy Kupfer Jr. They're from San Diego and a very obnoxious family.
Yeah, noisy, aren't they?
Noisy, loud, kind of I joked during that Americans sometimes portray their own from the big city as being these loud, obnoxious car salesman style people, you know? Buddy, the adult Buddy, not Junior, he's really likable because he's very warm, very friendly, but he's so in your face that he'd grate on your nerves after a couple of minutes. Definitely. You'd be smiling through gritted teeth kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to be mean to this dude because he's just nice.
But just, that's
Back, calm down, back off, buddy. You know, that kind of thing. But he's here. Their family is here to meet Mr. Cochrane. That's why they've arrived. It's also here we meet Marge, played by Garn Stevens. That's a name, half it, Garn.
Yeah.
She's come to collect an order that isn't ready yet, and she's pretty pissed off about it. We don't really get why. That'll explain actually a little bit later in another scene with her and Ellie. Back in the room with Ellie and Dan, and the talk gets flirty. Bam, bam, bam.
Yep.
To be fair, this is all instigated by Ellie. As Dan suggests, look, should I sleep in the car? I'm uncomfortable, that kind of thing. And she's like, where would you like to sleep, Dr. Dan? And he's like, well, that's a silly question.
Yeah.
They end up kissing, basically. We actually then cut. Like, that's not the sex scene. That comes later.
Yeah.
For some reason, that cuts away there. And you presume it was just a kiss, I guess, more than anything else. As we then see how Santa Mira operates from outside. We hear a loudspeaker playing a message saying that a 6 p.m. curfew is in effect and that everyone should go home. 6 p.m., go home. Bit strange.
A bit early, yeah.
Here is a little bit of bonus trivia for you. The voice of the loudspeaker and also the voice of the phone operator is a person, famous actress, uncredited though.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
It is Jamie Lee Curtis. Once you know it, you can't not hear it. Someone is also watching the CCTV covering the town and sees Dan emerging from a store where he's bought some drink. He ends up running into a drunk bum guy living around the town who tells Dan that Cochrane wouldn't give him a job at the factory and that he brought in his own people, basically, which I guess is the men in the suits we're often seeing about. The bum also gets really abusive to the CCTV before making a very, very dangerous threat involving Molotov cocktails and the factory not being there the next day.
Yeah.
Someone might need to look into this guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
bit of a random, yeah.
take it with a pinch of salt. He's a drunk. It's simple as that. They separate. Dan goes back to the motel room. The bum wanders into wherever he's staying. He makes what looks like squirty cheese on bread.
Yeah.
Which just looks horrible. But then ends up running into the suited men of Silver Shamrock, who end up ripping his head off. This, weirdly enough, was not a cutscene for you.
Yeah. So
Which was very strange.
Yeah.
Because you see the twist and rip off.
Yeah.
And you get that kind of sinew stretcher, you know?
Yeah. Bit of a strange edit there.
At the motel, we see Ellie has met Marge properly, and it turns out that Marge is here because the Silver Shamrock symbol, the trademark symbol, had come off her son's mask. So she's here to replace it. She's very pissed off about having to come here personally, but she says they're difficult to deal with by post now that they're such a large company. So it implies they've grown in stature over the years. There's a lot of cleverly worded things here where it's just where it's kind of offering detail about Silver Shamrock's size more than anything else.
How they've grown.
Yeah. So I don't mind this. In her hotel room, Marge puts things down on her dresser, and we see that she knocks off the symbol, which falls not face down, the other way up.
Yep.
And see that it's actually got a chip embedded in the back. Now, this is a major problem for me. How on earth she never noticed that before, I have no clue. Particularly if she's at one point when she shows it to Ellie, she's holding it like that with a finger across the middle. This chip is big in the back. You'd have felt that.
Yeah.
Also, the very first time that came off, you never looked at the back of it to see what was attaching it. Like if that came off, I'd be like, oh, maybe the pin came off and it just needs to be attached. Oh, what's that in the back? It's very, very pushing the boundaries
Of what's going to be believed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally think. What do we got then? So Dan calls Teddy to see what's going on, and she suggests that there's been a mistake because they're not doing an autopsy on a body, they're actually doing an autopsy on a bit of the car. That's basically it for that. She'll get back to him when there's more to it. Dan gets back to the hotel room. Ellie is dressed all sexy for him, and they bang. This is not a sex scene. You don't really see anything. They sort of lie down in bed. She's wearing like a negligee, and he's topless, and they're kissing more than anything else. We then cut to post-sex cuddles. We hear the Silver Shamrock ad playing again before Ellie wakes up and she wants to bang again. Now this scene is one of the most awkward head-scratching... Wait, What scenes ever? Why would you even bother including this? Because it's not cute, it's not funny, it's just fucking weird. As they're kissing, and bear in mind they've already had sex.
Yeah.
They've already done it. Dan now chooses the moment to ask how old she is.
Yeah, if you yeah, I don't know if he's not asking because she's close to.
She's young looking. She's very.
Yeah,
I would
but
not
she-
have put her under. I would not have
No.
put her under a legal age, at all.
Well, it comes about because she's obviously like up for some more fun.
Yeah.
And obviously he's an older gentleman, so he's probably like, "How old are you?" Like.
Except he's already done it. They've
Yeah,
already.
but she wants to do it again.
Yeah, but they've already done the deed. So like, why does it matter the second time around? The first time was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care if you're underage.
No,
I'm
no,
just
but he's
horny.
not asking for about. He's not asking about underage.
He's asking how old she is.
Yeah, because you're just not. So not what I said. Because
So you-
she wants to have sex again. She's like, I think it more in a jokey way, like, oh god, you've got so much energy. How old are you?
You think so?
Yeah.
Because then why does she
Because she's
answer? Why does she
clearly not.
answer that she's older than she looks? That's what she says back. I'm older than I look. That is not the
No, that's not
appropriate
the right.
response.
That's not the right response, and that's from what
I find it interesting you took it more as a jokey thing, and I took it as a sleazy, sinister. Wait, are you asking if she's underage after the fact?
Yeah, no, I don't think he is.
All right, okay, right, okay. Well, you tell us in the comments. What do you think that was? Am I reading way too much into that? I think, yeah, okay. Next door, Marge now notices the chip on the bottom of the silver shamrock symbol, having not noticed it up to this point while sitting in bed, and that symbol sitting all the way over by her dresser. Now she notices it.
Yep.
She picks it up, looks at it, and then tries to dig it out, and the laser fires from it into her face. This is obviously another famous scene that is often cut. It was cut for your watch. As you sort of see her pulling her hands down, it cut there.
Yeah.
What you actually see is the torn remains of her face. Her face is all ripped open. And it actually stays on it for almost 10 seconds as a bug then comes crawling out of her mouth.
Why cut that? Like,
It's a very good effect.
There's not much overall that happens. I don't think. Like I feel like you need to leave that in.
It's a strange cut, and like I said, it's disappointing that was the version we ended up watching with you. An arrival of a load of cars gets Dan out of bed. Presumably him and Ellie have finished again, and this time he's gone into a wallet to check her ID. They pop outside, and Dan sees a load of lab coat-wearing men taking Marge away. This is now where we meet Conal Cochrane, played by Dan O'Hurley. A very charming, likeable man. Very, very assured of himself, very confident, very warm and friendly.
Yeah.
I love his role in this. He might be the second best thing behind Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
Easily. These two together have great chemistry as well. He promises them, look, there was an accident. We're taking care of Marge. Don't worry about it. Although they overhear him whispering to one of his men about a misfire. Disturbed, the pair go back to their room and they end up sleeping until morning. The next day, so we're now October 30th. One more day to Halloween. The next day, Dan checks in with Teddy again, who tells them there is no body. That all the ashes are car parts, plastic, bits of metal and stuff like that. But hopefully by now your cogs are whirring, so to speak, and you're probably putting a little bit of two and two together. He then asks her to look into Conal Cochrane for him and the promise of dinner when they get back. Good old Playboy Dan. He's banging some young girl on the road, but when he gets back, he's hooking up with Teddy again. I mean, come on, what are you supposed to say about that? Dan and Ellie now go to the factory on the pretense, and the plan is clever, on the pretense of checking her father's order, suggesting it never arrived, and they've come to check it
Makes
out
sense.
where it is.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great cover story. It's one that will be blown almost immediately, but it's
still worth
as a
watching.
way to get into the factory and talk to someone. It's a good idea. And they quickly reach a dead end because it's like, look, the order was completed. Your father picked it up and so on. And they're about to leave. Obviously, well, we can't really have a reason to stay around when the Kupfer family arrive and they're here to see Mr. Cochrane, as previously said. Turns out that Buddy is the top salesman of the new Silver Shamrock masks in the entire country and has been invited to see the factory via Mr. Cochrane. Mr. Cochrane arrives. He's his usual charming self and once again tells Dan and Ellie that Marge is okay and has now been taken to hospital. He also offers to replace Ellie's order free of charge because that's how nice of a guy he fucking is. His mask quality acting does momentarily slip though, as Buddy asks Dan if Dan and Ellie can come along on the tour with them.
Yeah.
And Cochrane kind of goes, and then he quickly recovers, instantly recovers, and is like, yeah, I was just about to ask them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we get kind of a brief tour of the mask-making process of the factory. We also learn a little bit more about history of Silver Shamrock here, and in particular, Conal Cochrane, his past. He's an inventor who made practical gags. Apparently he's very famous for that, and toys that were exquisitely detailed stuff, and then obviously moved into mask-making for Halloween. Buddy Jr. wants a mask, and Cochrane gives him one, but one that he says has been through final processing. We don't really know what that is at this stage.
Yeah.
We do see an area called final processing, and this is where Cochrane informs Buddy that this is where trade secret comes along. You know, he taps his no trade secret, that kind of thing. You know, Ellie then sees her father's car in the back of a loading bay, and runs over there to check it out, but is blocked by men in suits. Dan comes over and he comforts her. They sort of stand out arm in arm, like, oh, what's going on? And you get this great shot of Cochrane just sort of standing there smiling alongside Buddy. And he just turns to me and he's like, trade secrets. And it's like, oh, that's awesome. Back at the motel, Dan makes the weirdest suggestion of the movie, that they should call in the Marines. The Marines?
That's weird.
I thought that was a fucking weird thing to say. You know, call the police, call the army, the Marines.
Yeah.
Okay. So having obviously, you know, realised that was a dumb idea, he goes to actually call the police. He even says, I'm going to call the police. But now the phone line won't connect. You just get an operator's voice, Jamie Lee Curtis's voice. Back at the room, he now finds Ellie missing and loads of suited men arrive. He manages to escape the room, makes his way through the town very carefully. I think this is one of the slowest parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Very, very slow. His car driving around, he's hiding in bushes, he's hiding behind a fence and so on, that kind of thing.
Could spread up a little bit to get progress the story.
Particularly his end result is him just getting to the factory and climbing in anyway.
Yeah.
We also then see a different shot of Ellie being taken, well, from a distance, you sort of see a car pull up and someone being dragged out of it. You presume it is Ellie. Dan tries to call out again and again, but the line won't connect to the outside world. So like I said, he ends up getting into the factory and does some exploring where he comes across an old woman knitting in a room. He demands information about Ellie from her. She doesn't answer him, so he does that classic thing when no one answers you.
Yeah.
Shake him.
Oh, yeah. Give me answers.
And her head falls off, revealing that she's an animatronic, a very well-designed animatronic. Shocked, he backs out and then gets grabbed by one of the men in a suit.
Yeah.
He gets into a fight, they fight, but Dan does actually get the upper hand here and ends up ripping into this guy's chest and effectively pulling out bits of wires. It's kind of got this kind of gooey texture to it as well. It's like not blood, it's kind of like yellowish kind of looking kind of thing.
Oil, almost like oil stuff to kind of keep the stuff going. Yeah.
Well, yeah, oil. Actually, that probably is what it is. You're right, to keep the gears churning.
And also for a horror film, you want to have a bit more grossness to it.
Absolutely. So it's a robot, which means all the men in suits are effectively robots. It answers a lot of questions that you might have had from the very start. Dan seems to be completely disheartened by this. He's kind of completely shocked. I will say this. Why is it that he's a robot that shocks him? Because had he not been, you just reached into a guy's chest and ripped out his guts. Like, if had it been a human guy, that's still fucking shocking, Dan.
Still pretty extreme way of dealing with him.
I would say it's less... I'd be maybe relieved. Oh, thank fuck it's not a guy. Woo! I didn't just rip a guy's guts out.
Because if you're fighting, the most thing you want to do is knock them out completely, like knock them unconscious and get away. But to do that is a bit more extreme.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. But he's now grabbed by a load of other men in suits, and Conal Cochrane arrives, who reveals that the men are robots. And as he says in the lift on the way down, just another form of mask making, which is a nice kind of glossing over the entire process, because they look incredible. Yeah. You know, that kind of thing.
Apart from dodgy hair. The dodgy hair kind of... They've all got pretty dodgy hair, haven't they? Styled that way. You
noticed that more than I did. Cochrane also reveals he knows exactly who Dan is and that Ellie is here, but she's resting according to him. We now cut to Halloween morning as Dan is led through the factory and taken into final processing. I love this shot. So it's done from very high up inside the factory bay area that's outside. And you can see them leading Dan out. And Cochrane sort of stops and there's distance enough, but you can still see it. And he kind of stops and you kind of see him go... Like, and I love shit like that, you know, like, it's Halloween morning. He seems very happy we've reached Halloween day. He's taken down in a lift to the lowest part of the factory, where it's revealed that the stolen piece of Stonehenge is here. Cochrane stole it and totally glosses over how.
Oh yeah, how the fuck you get that?
I love it though, because it's just the way he goes, we had a hell of a time getting it here.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's all he needs to say. Yeah. But he delivers it in such a way that I'm like, you know what, it's fine.
Yeah,
I believe he could have done it. I believe he could have done it because this man clearly has
some money.
Shit going on. Yeah. You know what I mean? He talks about Stonehenge having some sort of power, even in the particles. They're preparing for something big and have used little pieces of Stonehenge or dust from Stonehenge to do it.
Yeah.
At this point, that's still not revealed, and I like that it's still very mysterious. Although, I don't get why Cochrane feels the need to explain himself to Dan.
Yeah, we both said that. So like,
Why didn't just kill him?
it's such a trope as well, isn't it?
Yep,
It's like
villain
yeah,
explaining his master plan.
Literally, you would just put a bullet in his head and go, "Well, that's him out of the way." Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's like a pride thing, like he doesn't get to explain himself much to people.
I reckon that that's a really strong, well done. That's a fantastic argument. He never gets to talk to anyone, let alone someone that's basically unravelled his plan, so to speak.
Yeah,
And I think he's showing off.
Yeah, and if you're an evil genius, you're not going to think people are going to get away. Like you never expect people to get away.
Yeah, absolutely. You never do. That's the thing. You never do. That's the whole point. He shows them that Ellie's in a bed in a room and points out that she's literally next door, as well as showing that Marge is dead and that it was a misfire. So the plan. Let's talk about the plan. It is pretty evil. And it involves particles of Stonehenge are put into the chips and the masks of the Silver Shamrock trademark buttons. When a specific ad plays, it activates the chip. The end result seems to turn the mask wearer's head into mush that then splits open and lots of insects and snakes come out. We see this in what is the movie's best scene through Cochrane's demonstration on the Kupfer family. So he's basically tricked them into coming into like a room where he's told the older buddy that he's going to watch some ads and give him some notes. The ad starts playing, which obviously the young Buddy Jr.'s mask then starts to activate. It's very nasty, it's very brutal. Obviously it's done to a child as well. You know, the head splits open, a large, massive amount of insects come out and snakes and all that. This is a good couple of minutes as the Kupfer family get bitten and killed by the venomous snakes.
Yeah, it was cool. I liked it.
What I really love is it keeps cutting back to Cochrane and at Dan Chalice's face. And like Cochrane's watching with like a certain sense of pride. And Tom Atkins is kind of shock and then just horror. Yeah, it's amazing. We then get a well-done series of shots of children all over the country, different towns wearing silver shamrock masks. It's a way to sell how widespread these masks are, which I think's done really, really well, including we see Dan's own children wearing the masks. We then cut back to Teddy, because we can't forget about her, who is trying to get hold of Dan, but obviously now can no longer get through to him. She's playing with some mechanical parts that are obviously part of the ashes. And she seems to realise, I guess, or think this, find a link.
Right? Yeah, because she wasn't. Why would she? No one would give her a part of a car, like parts of machinery to autopsy.
Yeah.
So this was the body. So this has come from the body. So yeah.
It doesn't matter though, because a few minutes later she's dead. One of Cochrane's men arrives and kills her with a drill. This is not something. You don't see this death even cut or uncut. It's from a distance, drilling her head kind of thing. There's no video nasty stuff here, basically. Dan is now taken to another room and tied up, whereupon Cochrane explains the why part of his plan. We've had the how, now why. Yeah. And it's gibberish. I hate to tell you, this is a very, very gibberish, pointless, alright, whatever film, as it basically relates to Celtic history and planets aligning and sacrifices.
Yeah.
Old witchcraft, basically. His people back in the old Celtic days would sacrifice children, I guess. It never specifies whichever, on hills and so on. And it was done for decades or for over generations when planets aligned at a certain point. Then it stopped, obviously, as the Western world became more civilized. And he wants to bring that tradition back. And the planets are aligning on this night of Halloween. I don't think we needed a why.
No.
I think just an evil man with an evil plan.
Yeah, I feel like you could have made the story a bit more streamlined. It did feel like it dragged a little bit, and it's a little bit like, oh, that's your link to the witchcraft part.
Yeah. It's the only link we have. It's the only link.
I mean, I don't know. I know not all witches are women, but like you could have like a female.
A witch is a female. Warlock is a male.
Okay. So I don't see why you couldn't have had a female boss of the factories.
No,
perhaps,
my God.
couple.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, but I love Conor Cochrane.
Oh yeah,
I love
him.
So
you could have had some. I don't know. I'm still annoyed at the title and the fact they didn't have more direct links. It just felt a bit wishy-washy. Can't you just have?
it is a wishy-washy explanation.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But anyway, Cochrane puts one of the masks on Dan and turns the TV on. Obviously, Dan is going to have to watch the ad as well, and I guess it will affect adults as much as it will kids.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, it doesn't take long for Dan to escape. He smashes the TV, even though Halloween is playing. God. And he uses a bit of glass of that to cut his hands free. Then he launches the mask from his head over the camera. I told you it was 60 times. It's not. It was 40.
Yeah.
40 times that this took for them to get the mask over, which just beggars belief of why you just didn't do a cut. Throw the mask and then have it drop on.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes. Dan then escapes and gets into the vent system while Cochrane is actually distracted by a phone call, which seems to be one from his buyers, who seems to be negotiating new prices, that kind of thing. When he finishes, one of his robot men informs him that there is a problem, and they find Dan has escaped inside the room. Shock!
Yeah, shock that you got out.
Why didn't you just kill him?
Yeah, told him your plan.
Absolutely. Then we get a very long sequence again of Dan kind of sneaking through the factory. It's quite slow until he finds a phone. He calls his ex-wife, wanting her, look, don't let the kids watch TV. She's not having none of it.
Trying to master away as well, isn't he?
Yeah, just like, it's all of that sort of stuff. He's trying to save his children. But she's having none of it. Absolutely none of it, and hangs up on him unsurprisingly. Can't blame her on this front. Dan then finds Ellie, and he rescues her. But she seems to be in shock. Not very responsive, not very talkative. But Dan could just leave. But he is a hero. We need a hero.
Yeah.
And he wants to stop Cochrane. So they kind of sneak back into the Stonehenge room, where Dan first grabs a box of silver Shamrock buttons, and he's able to turn on the killer ad. So this is like I said, you've got to take this shit with a pinch of salt. He sneaks up to the console and basically just pushes a lot of buttons.
Yeah, and it all works well.
And it all works perfectly as the ad starts to play. He then gets up on the balcony and basically throws these activating chips into the air over the men and the entire room. It causes lightning to shoot out of all of them and sort of bounces off each of the robotic men, killing them all instantly. Everyone but Cochrane, who's sort of standing in the centre. Stonehenge starts to go a bit weird here. It starts to glow, lighting up. I don't know why. Cochrane looks and sees Dan and gives him a sarcastic clap, which warmed my heart, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm going to miss you, you damn evil git.
It's like, I think it's that easy.
Yeah. And he's hit by light from Stonehenge. He turns really bright, and the effect is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It doesn't even look like it doesn't even look like the actor in any way, shape, or form. He starts to fade away before exploding, which apparently causes the whole factory to blow up. As we then come to outside, and Dan and Ellie are running away, and you can kind of see the factory blown at the background, and the effect is the worst in the movie.
Yeah.
It looks
pretty awful.
Terrible. It looks like a painting background, like a Mary Poppins painted background.
Yep.
In the car, Dan's driving away. They kind of like, and he asks if Ellie's okay. Look, you haven't really said anything. But she ends up attacking him. Can you believe it? They end up crashing, and you kind of see that her arm is ripped off and is still holding like the inside of one of the doors. He gets out of the car, he's hurt, and the armless Ellie attacks him. We see wires sticking out. She's now a robot. So obviously they killed Ellie and replaced her with a robot as a kind of fail-safe, I guess, in case he escapes.
Yeah.
You could have just killed him.
Yeah, it goes back to that, doesn't it? Like,
Yep.
You could just...
You've gone to all these lengths to stop him. Had you just gone, Robot Man, snap his neck.
Yeah, done. Ugh. Yeah.
This part of the film is also really slow, as he fights her off several times. He fights her off, knocks her head off. Her body continues to attack him. He finally fights her off, gets in the car, and then gets attacked by her arm. Not once, but twice.
But I had noticed the time scale as well. So this advert's going to show at 9 o'clock across the country.
Yep.
He leaves, so I think it's like 8:10 when he first gets tied up. And I think he notices the time again, and it's still it's like 20 to 9. It's like, how much do you get done in this time? Like,
that's picky. That's picky. It's hard to do. Yeah,
I don't think it is.
Well, all of this could have happened in a matter of minutes.
I still think he's like way away from time wise, but
anyway, he fights off the arm and basically runs away from the car, ending up at the place from the start, the gas station / junkyard that houses Walter. He's less than a minute. And we cut to him basically on the phone with TV station place, I guess. The TV people? I don't know who you call. Who do you call? How do you call?
I don't get how you...
I mean, all right, operator, can you put me through to syndicated... I don't know how... Here's a real problem for a UK viewer. I don't know how US TV works. I don't know how many channels. I don't know how you stop an ad from playing across all those channels. How it works state by state.
What happened in the 80s?
I don't know. I tried looking into it. And I got very confused because of different state channels.
And time zones.
Time zones I don't mind so much because people have tried and I'm kind of saying, well, look, 9 p.m. in their state. But like on the other side of the country, 9 p.m. would just be 10 p.m. So you had to be playing then. Same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like, do you know what I mean? That's how it works. I don't mind that so much. Some kids arrive, 3 kids wearing silver Shamrock masks, and Walter gives them some sweets, and then they sit down to put the ad on, and it starts to play. Now, as I said, I ended up looking into the US TV thing, and I couldn't work it out, but I was like, what would it be for us, the UK? And we had 3 channels. We had 3 because Channel 4 did not start till November 1982, the month after these events effectively took place. So we would have had only 3 channels. But according to Dan, it's only 3 channels. Because he takes it off, basically, he manages to talk them into stopping it on 2 channels. But the kids switch to a 3rd channel where the ad is still playing. And he says the 3rd channel, the 3rd ad. So was it only 3 channels? It must be, right?
Have been. Yeah.
Yeah. Love this. He's pleading and he's begging and he's pleading and he's begging. The ad's playing faster and faster, you know what's going to happen in a moment. And he's saying, stop it, stop it, stop it. And it ends on a freeze frame of him screaming into the phone.
So you never know.
And that's it. We never know. Did he succeed? Did he not?
Yeah.
Tom Atkins famously said when he was asked once at a convention that he believes Dan Chalice's character would have stopped it. It ties into it and he needed a bit of hope. I'm inclined to go with him. Because if he was able to talk a TV station into stopping the ad, 2 of them, why wouldn't they do the 3rd?
Yeah.
I suspect he probably did.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best way he can go with it. But I love the ambiguity of it all.
Definitely, yeah. Rather than, because say you couldn't have, there's no way of showing out on a big scale, so you kind of have to do it like that anyway. I feel
it's a masterful performance, regardless, by Tom Atkins in those final scenes. I absolutely adore his passion he throws into this. Definitely. He really, really does. And that's Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, one of the a famous movie, but one of the most polarizing because of its position as being a standalone movie in this series. Haven't seen it now. Thoughts?
I like the idea of having, well, what it was originally supposed to be is having separate stories under the Halloween theme.
Banner,
yeah. But I don't know, I think there was slow moments. I feel like you could have done the whole idea of the story was a little bit far blown, the whole Stonehenge part. I liked it, but I don't know, I'd rush to watch it again as like a Halloween classic.
There it is, exactly that. I 100% agree. I like this movie, but I don't love it. I think the cult following is deserved because it is unique. Unique in a way, and it embodies and captures Halloween perfectly. If you want to watch a movie at Halloween, hence why we're doing this as part of the 30 Days of Halloween, this is a great example where you're avoiding the usual suspects. Yeah. It has some wonderful performances from Tom Atkins, from, what's his name? O'Hillery, people like that. Stacey, they're all good. The main stars, in fact, all throw it in a shift. Yeah. I think they do a really, really strong job. And the story itself, aside from the convoluted why, is actually kind of cool. Evil Mask Maker, the ad, I love all of that. It's just that when they get to that convoluted, pointless, extra planets aligning witchcraft bollocks, you're just like, oh, come on. I wouldn't even mind the Stonehenge part being about stolen, as long as we just didn't, if it was just, oh, we know it's got power and we're using that. Because I'd buy into that. Stonehenge is ancient. Yeah. It's in our fucking country. We're aware of that. So I'd be fine with that. It's just I'm going to stand here and explain about how witchcraft and back in the Celtic days and planets aligning. That part there, you're just like, oh, come on now. Yeah. A bit far-fetched. Yeah, and it has, as you said, got some slow moments. There are parts where like, oh, trim that bit down here, trim that bit down there.
The back and forth about, I know she has to find out about the autopsy, but when you have a scene where you're just filming her do it, I don't do it in one go.
It doesn't come to really anything either, which I think is quite important.
It's just show her being killed and find out, oh yeah, that one was a robot as well.
Yeah. But there you go. There's our review of Halloween 3 Season of Witch. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?